This podcast is brought to you by our Anime Addicts community. And in this 2024 year, support the podcast and make it a great year over at AAApodcast.com/join or Patreon. We love all of our fans so much, and we're looking to tack another 50 episodes onto our ever-growing count here. So if you want to help us out this next year, AAApodcast.com/join or Patreon. And now it's time to start the show.
Get ready! You're about to listen to the Anime Addicts Anonymous podcast. Make your anime addiction worse at AAApodcast.com. And now, here are your anime addicts.
Welcome into the podcast, episode 709, the first episode of 2024. I am your host, Mitsugi, and I am joined by a single host. It's Mason. How you doing?
I'm here, I'm alive, I'm conscious, and I'm probably not going to make it up to New Year's. We're recording this on New Year's Eve, and I'm already feeling sleepy. I'm already a tired boy. Just getting through this episode will be enough for me after the ordeals of holiday travel, which we talked all about in our Hobby Addicts.
Yeah.
So,
oh, yeah.
But we made it. We're alive. We're kicking. And we're here to talk about anime, which is something we occasionally do on this episode.
Occasionally.
So, maybe,
but first,
if you're lucky.
Caroline not here today. She didn't think she could handle drinking for New Year's and having a conversation. So she is currently passed out somewhere up in New York. So all the best to Caroline. But for the rest of you, we're here to make your anime addiction worse. I hope you enjoy the show today. We're live on Twitch, 5 p.m. Eastern. If you want to come over to twitch.tv/AAA podcast. We're across pretty much all social media. We're on Twitter, aka X, which I'm never going to get used to. TikTok, Facebook, the Instagrams, the Snap faces, the what have yous.
If you watch these episodes on Twitch, you get them a whole year early, if you think about it.
That's right. Yeah, and as I sit here and ponder my New Year's anime resolutions, which is what we're going to talk about today, I sip a little bit of straight Woodford Reserve bourbon. Mm-hmm.
Woodford Reserve bourbon.
Yep.
It's quite a mouthful.
That's the name of the distillery, indeed. And we are also going to be reviewing Conan the Barbarian today, aka Helck, because let's be honest, he's comically lifted straight out of Conan the Barbarian.
Oh, there's a lot of lifting involved.
Yeah, right down to the haircut and the little headband that he has.
Yeah,
he's definitely Arnold. So we're going to talk some anime New Year's resolutions today, and also the anime Helck, which was a listener choice anime. So speaking of which, in a few weeks, we'll be doing our listener choices for winter because the impressions are soon upon us. I heard a lot of confusion about my picks from that last episode. People were very puzzled. And, when you... Listen, Mason.
You don't need to justify it to me.
All I'm going to say is I listened to the episode because my boy Kazuo was on. And there was a lot of confusion, but also a whole lot of conversation about all these wild and crazy fucking animes that Mitz picked. And the bottom line is, when you remove all of the slice of lifes and the rom-coms and the comedies from the genre selection on my anime list, you're basically left with smut and action. And there was literally no sports at all this whole season, not a single anime. So we're gonna get it's the season of titties. Okay, let's just be fair.
Contact sports.
Yes, contact sport.
If you're lucky.
Yes, and speaking of which, we're going to do our hentai episode after the show today, so for those of you that support the podcast, you'll get that hentai episode. Mason, are you, do you feel the need to add anything else, or do you want to just move right into the big news?
That was good. We got a lot to talk about today, so we can move on over.
大ニュースです。 it's time for big news of the week.
Well, it's basically 2024 now, and so now begins the, I don't know, the 2 straight weeks of everybody just reflecting about 2023. And so we may as well start now. The Japanese box office leaders for 2023 have been revealed, and the number one grossing film in Japan in 2023 pretty much says what it is here in the document. But I wouldn't have expected Slam Dunk, the first Slam Dunk movie, was the top grossing film of 2023. It beat the Detective Conan movie. It beat The Boy and the Heron. It beat Godzilla -1. It even beat the Super Mario movie. So pretty fucking impressive that Slam Dunk has, I don't know, more cachet in Japan than Mario does.
Yeah, you love to see it. Now, of course, the first Slam Dunk really didn't come out until, like, it came out in 2022, just at the end of the year. So it had, you could argue, 3 or 4 more months than, let's say, Super Mario Brothers or Detective Conan to accrue that revenue. But for it to even be in the conversation of these things is awesome. Just because it's been a while since any Slam Dunk stuff has come out. It's kind of, beloved. But how beloved is it? Clearly a ton. So I'm happy. I'm still hyped to see it. I have not gotten my eyes on it yet.
I haven't either. And the Slam Dunk movie is actually the highest grossing film in 2 years in Japan, because the highest grossing film last year in Japan was Top Gun Maverick, and it earned $102 million in Japan, which is, let's be honest, that's a fuck ton. That's a lot for Japan. And the Slam Dunk movie did $112 million, so it literally is now the highest grossing film in at least 2 years, maybe longer. I didn't go back past the prior year. Some other standouts include Detective Conan Kurogane no Submarine, which is the Black Iron Submarine, Kurogane. And that one grossed $98 million. The Boy and the Heron did $61 million, which is... I did finally see that movie.
Yeah.
And it was fine. I mean, it's not...
It also just came out, It's got a couple more months.
It's nowhere near as good as, like, Porco Rosso or Kiki's Liver Service or any of those, but it was fine. The Super Mario Brothers movie did about $100 million exactly. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning did $38 million. So I mean, there's just a lot of the other anime films that were on here. The Kingdom movie, Godzilla -1, they're calling that's highest grossing domestic. Doraemon, Demon Slayer's on here. Idolish 7 is on here. So, but yeah, Slam Dunk.
Mission Impossible should have taken some cues from Attack on Titan and been like, Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning, Season 7, Part 1, or whatever movie number it is. Oh my god,
bro. There are I didn't realize how many Mission Impossible movies there are. There's a fucking
just
ton
keep
of
on
them.
Coming.
Well, they're pretty good. I watched most of them when I was in Arizona doing a training recently, and I enjoy them. They're pretty good.
I'm most confused by this BTS yet to come to cinemas. Clearly it came to cinemas.
Yeah. And it earned $18 million.
I mean, I'm not knocking it. I'm just wondering. Anyway.
Yeah, so a good year for film in Japan. I mean, this is, a lot of films that are relatively high as far as what Japan is capable of putting out for theater revenue. And by the way, Japan barely has inflation at all, so you can't really put that. This is really not worth putting that into the equation. It's probably, it makes a difference, but not like it does in the U.S. So good on Slam Dunk. Still need to see it, and eventually that'll happen. I'm sure I could probably just watch it online right now if I wanted to. Mason, what do you got?
Yeah, a lot of new sequel announcements coming out. Obviously, Jujutsu Kaisen Season 3 getting Season 3. And all news. The one I want to highlight today is the 100 Girlfriends Who Really, 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 however many times you say really, love you, is getting a second season. This came through the official Twitter account. No news yet on what season it will be out in. I haven't seen any of it yet. I don't think you have either. We will be reviewing Season 1 when we get to it, but I've heard pretty positive things about it. I'm wondering, is harem back on the menu? Is one good harem anime enough to make it a cultural force like it used to be? Mitz, would you want more harem anime, or are
Yeah.
we past that?
No, I'm good. I'm good with it.
Okay,
Because
well, we'll see how it is when we
I,
actually review it.
I mean, because like I'm watching all these rom-coms, and we all know how I feel about them, but nothing romancy ever happens, really. You know, it might be more.
Well,
They might be heading down the path of a more normal relationship, but at least I know in the harem show they're gonna have mostly. It's definitely gonna be trash. It's probably gonna have ecchi in it. They're a lot more likely to like, you know, I don't know, get a little more physical. So
what's better, not confessing to one girl or not confessing to hundreds of girls? At that point, it's just funny.
at least the girls are gonna like fight and pull each other's hair out and shit. I mean, you know, I don't know. I'm down, honestly.
We will see. I'm
come
excited
on.
for this.
What kind of a question is that? Did you not see my picks for winter 2024?
You're all in. Mitsuki walked up to the craps table and pushed his massive pile of chips all in on harem and said,
Yeah, exactly.
let it
Like,
ride.
come on. Yeah, come on. And I'm not even sure if that hot spring anime was like the reincarnated as a hot spring, but I just assumed it would be super ecchi.
I
Come
don't
on.
think it's that one.
Oh, well, it's going to be
I don't
ecchi,
know.
though. This guy,
Oh, I hope so.
What the
It better
synopsis was
be.
like, this guy loves hot springs, so he's bathing, and then an elf girl shows up. Perfect. Elf girl
Vince,
titties.
is that not your dream? You love
pretty much
hot
is.
springs. You love elf girls.
Yeah, I would definitely not turn down a hot spring with Deedlit in it. She doesn't have to be naked, but it's Deedlit. I mean, come on.
But it's a hot spring. Come on.
Well, the hot spring too. I mean,
Get
what do
with
you
the program.
what do you want from me? So,
Ask not what anime can do for you. Ask what you can do for anime.
I do think as a TMI, since Caroline's not here, that when the hot spring water gets to a certain temperature, it does affect penile function. So, good luck. Deedlit's going to be real disappointed when your penis is blasted by by water that's 1 degree away from literally scalding you. You're not able to. Oh, Deedlit.
Some like it hot.
She'll
With
cast.
that,
She'll
we
cast
can-
magic on your penis. She'll be like, magic spell, erection, go. Just, oh my god. Anyway, go ahead. Yeah, with that.
Yeah, our main topic is New Year's resolutions. Now, being veterans of anime and kind of caught up in the demands and whims of the podcast, I think Mitsugi and I are too busy and jaded for normal quote unquote anime
Yeah,
resolutions.
pretty jaded.
Like, people come in, they're like, my resolutions for 2024, I'm gonna watch the last couple Ghibli movies I haven't seen, and I'm gonna read more manga, and I'm gonna get through my backlog, and I'm gonna watch that one show that I feel guilty about every time someone reminds me I haven't seen it. I'm gonna watch like Legend of the Galactic Heroes or Hunter x Hunter or catch up on. Boring. No, that's all well and good, but I wanted to mix it up a bit, and I want the premise to be that Mitz and I are put as king emperors in charge of anime production, and we can't control anything directly, but we can make 5 resolutions that will influence 2024 anime to make it better. Now, this is kind of similar to our presidential promises episode we did like a year ago.
I
but
love that. We should do it again.
It's a little different.
It's another election year. I feel like we have to.
We'll do it again. So I made sure to try to not pick any of the same kind of things I wish to change, but these are kind of just 5 resolutions that just the anime industry could make that I would be like, okay, I'm down for it. I think shows will be better off for it. So do you want to start off, Mitz, or should I?
I'm super grumpy, so I'll just go ahead.
Yeah, hit us.
So the first thing we got to do is, so this is all an effort to make anime better. Okay, I mean, I've seen a lot of anime, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna make a New Year's resolution about finishing One Piece or some shit. It's about making anime as a whole better. Okay, and the first thing you have to do is increase animator pay. It has to happen. And I posted a link here, and actually 2 links, and a lot of people don't realize this, but the anime industry is posting, for the most part, perennial record profits. So every article you'll look up, if you actually go look this up, is going to tell you that the anime industry is going gangbusters. Last year, the anime industry broke a record of for revenues, posting it's an $18.4 billion business. Okay. Now, in the last year, it was even higher than that. So it was closer to $20 billion. So you're talking about a $20 billion industry that's growing every year. It's making shitloads of money. And if you want to be able to support the direction that the industry has been going, as far as like putting out more shows, making things look better, et cetera, having better writing, you're going to have to get more money into people's pockets. It's going to help you retain talent in the industry. You're going to have better writing. You're not going to have to spend half your time retraining all the new staff members. You're going to have knowledge of how to create quality anime passed down through different generations of employees. And importantly, the industry can afford it. So it isn't like they don't have the money anymore. So I don't know where all this fucking money goes. I know a lot of it goes to the production committees and whatnot. But the bottom line is you got to get more hands into the animators' pockets, because right now they're not paid even close to enough, and they're just doing it and going, fuck this is insane, I can't live, and then they quit, and then you have a bunch of people who can't draw a straight line like me. So we got to increase the animator pay.
Yeah, not to mention all the burnout and stuff, but we'll get to that.
Yeah,
I have no qualms if anime said, hey, we need to get more money in the creatives who are on the ground doing the work, making the shows that investors are funding a reality. I'm all for it. And I get it. Making anime is a risk. It's an investment, blah, 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 blah. But you need people to make the thing. And as we'll get to later, people making shows is definitely what we want to stay in the lane of.
Yeah.
So,
as opposed to what?
As opposed to artificial intelligence or other kind of software that might... we'll get to that.
I had my first interaction with ChatGPT the other night.
Oh, okay. What were you trying to do?
Well, Pancake's uncle insisted that if I didn't learn how to use AI, people would be running circles around me in no time, to which I am like, my company can't even like barely keep their fucking servers on, so I doubt that's going to happen. But after fucking around with it, and this is just basic, I think there's no doubt that anime is seriously in jeopardy of being taken over by AI. I mean, don't even... Putting aside the ridiculous anime artwork that an AI can pump out in like 2 seconds, just like having it write an email and then just saying, this is too formal. Can you make it more informal? And it rewrites the email exactly how you ask. And you're like, no, can you make it funnier? And then it puts some jokes in there that are like relatable. I'm like, this shit is definitely going to be able to write the plot of an isekai pretty quick. So there's no doubt about it. So yeah, I think you're definitely right. And I would... prefer just to keep that away from anime if I can.
Yeah,
So what's your
Lovely.
first New Year's resolution?
My
Mason?
first resolution that I wish shows committed to is to not put source material on a pedestal. And that is to say, a lot of anime we love come from light novels or manga or even regular novels. And I think a lot of times these adaptations treat the source material as sacred texts. And they are like, hey, we have to adapt everything exactly how it was written. We can't change anything. We can't alter anything. And I think usually when that happens, while they're trying to stay true to form, which is good in theory, it usually hamstrings the show and makes a worse product. And I am definitely of the opinion when you are adapting something or remaking something, if something can be made better by editing it or tweaking it in a way to fit better, do it. Most people who watch anime are not going to read the manga. They're not going to appreciate the differences. And, it's good that all the characters make it in, but if it causes do you have a question, Mitz?
No, I'm one of those people.
Oh, yeah. If it's going to make a episode drag or really bad or not fit in enough stuff in time and make everything feel bloated and unwieldy, it's for the worse. So acknowledge that, yes, you are beholden to the source material to some degree, but make the anime the best it is on its own terms. And I think we'll get a lot better adaptations for it. So that's something I would like to see done.
All right.
That's it.
This next one for me is very similar to my first one. We got to increase animator pay. And yes, You will be unsurprised and probably yawn. We must make fewer anime. I know. Play the gasp drop. Do I even have a drop for gasping?
No way!
That's about all I can do.
The drop is you picking 17 ecchi shows for next season's impressions.
People probably don't realize how many anime came out in the fall. A shocking amount. Way more than you fucking think. So if you go online and look it up, there were 72 new anime in the fall. 72 new anime, 26 continuing anime, and 21 movies. That is something like 120 anime, and then there were like a billion ONAs, like literally like 100 of them. And I didn't bother counting them because it was just way too much. But if you average the amount of anime that came out in the winter 2024 season, which is where we are now, and the last season for fall, you're averaging. Let's see here. You have 100 from winter, and you got 130 from fall. So you're averaging over 100 easily per season. Now, putting aside the fact that I did the math on this, and you would literally have to spend almost the entire the calendar quarter watching anime to watch them all. I think we all know that most of these anime look like shit. I mean, I just watched a hentai. I'm watching it right now. It's very exciting. Oh,
As we speak.
Oh, yeah. Yep. This hentai girl's getting it good. It's better animated than the whole bunch of shit that I've seen not too far in the past. And that isn't good. When your hentai looks better than some of your anime, you have a serious problem. And so I think that if you, and you can't, and I know people go, oh, it's better for anime, there's more shows. You're wrong, okay? More animator pay, fewer anime will equal far more talent per show, far higher quality of content. You know, I mean, I don't know. I don't watch all the shows, but my guess is out of the 72 new anime from fall, probably 40 of them are fucking horrific. Like, you wouldn't actually want to watch them. You'd probably drop them. And that's not good. Like, sure, it's turning into a quantity over quality equation, and that is almost never where you want to be. You know, you don't want to have, like, you know, oh, I got 40 restaurants near me, and all of them are about at McDonald's level. Wouldn't you rather have a couple more, like, you know, decent restaurants? So just keep in mind that we got too many shows. Just fucking. I didn't realize. Did you realize there were 72 anime in the fall?
I mean, I don't know that number exactly, but 60 plus shows a season has become kind of the new norm.
Well, it was 50. Now we're at 60. Soon we'll be at 70. And I could see it being a good thing if all these shows had, like, unique concepts and were bringing something to the table. But as you guys commented from my picks for winter, it's a lot of isekai again. So everything is isekai, you know, whatever, and it's just you know, you don't really need 9 isekais with the same relative plot line. You just need one that is really good. So I'd rather have 9. I'd rather have one jobless reincarnation and not 9 realist heroes.
Yeah, but you have 9 different people and companies trying to cash in on it. You gotta do rock, paper, scissors to figure out who gets the isekai this season. I don't know. It's tough.
I wish I had 9 dicks because there's, you know, one Deedlit in the world. And sometimes, you know, one is just not enough. You gotta have 9 dicks. So.
Okay, in case one overheats.
Well, you gotta ask George Washington about that. Man was literally covered in penises.
I was unaware.
Mason, you're up.
A lot of New Year's resolutions often have to do with getting in shape, getting healthy, new year, new you, just, you know, treating your body well. So this next one is for the sake of heart health. I don't want any more romances with interrupted confession scenes.
Based.
Every time the girl or the guy comes up stammering and is about to finally make it so.
Yeah.
And something happens. The other person falls asleep. A rock drops on their head and knocks them out. the annoying friend comes by and pipes in and ruins all. My heart can't take it anymore. Just let the confessions happen, okay? We've seen the trope enough times. We can just let it. If you're not going to confess, don't even bother trying. And I get it. Things don't always go as planned. There's some comedy that could be had from it. No, I don't want it anymore. I'm
No,
done with it. Just give me the romance. Hold hands, or don't tempt me with it. So
you're so correct. You're just so honestly correct, and it's just a plot device used to kind of tantalize the viewer while kicking the rock down the road. Yeah, basically, and sometimes the rock just feels better in your pocket. You just want to pick that rock up.
exactly,
You know,
doesn't need to go on that journey.
I mean, sometimes you just want to see the confession. And
hmm
man, they've been doing that shit since fucking Love Hina. I don't know. Probably from actually before Love Hina. They were doing it in the 80s. So, and I thought it was stupid in Love Hina. So, come on, people
But
falling
at
through
least it felt different then.
girls are falling through the fucking ceiling and landing on people. Come on. Give me a fucking break.
Give me a structural engineer at least.
For
Yeah,
real.
that's what I got for that one.
Number 3 for me is bring back anime cells. I had this like weird it's funny. I have this desire to go back and watch every anime from the 80s. It's not as hard as you might think. In the 80s, there were like 20 anime a season. And now there's 120. So it's not as hard as you think, but but the first anime that came out in the 80s, as I was joking with my friends in Orlando, and I was like, in the 80s, a lot of anime were made after like children's books. So they're just adaptations of like classic literature. And
Yeah, world masterpiece theater stuff.
the very first anime that came out in the 80s was a 52 episode series called The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. And I was like, I can't watch this. Like, I'm going to literally jump out of a window watching like this G-rated fucking anime. But it still had like the charm of it. I think that art has this charm of there being evidence that it was made by humans. And if it's a painting, it's maybe brush strokes or like where there's like a glob of a dried paint, where it's not quite even, or they're putting textures on it. In anime, it was always slight vibrations in the animation where they would line up the cells and they would be a millimeter off, or imperfect line work and whatnot. And this type of shit, when I watch anime from like the 90s and 80s, it just gives me a special sort of warm feeling. And it looks a lot less artificial and cold. Like when you go into a hospital and it's like everything's clean and all the walls are white and all the, and it smells like disinfectant. To me, that is more like how anime today feels. It feels a little manufactured, a little too perfect, a little too clean. And sometimes you just want to experience like things in their natural form. And so I know this is never going to happen because it's more expensive to use cells and it takes longer. And so they're never going to do this. But if I had it my way, we would bring cells back because I truly think that everybody would prefer that. I just think that a lot of anime fans now don't even know what anime cells are because they started watching anime like 5-6 years ago, or like Attack on Titan came out and that's when they started. But Attack on Titan came out like 10 years after cells stopped being used. So many anime fans have no idea even what an anime cell is and wouldn't be able to identify it on screen if they had to, but they may enjoy it better if they saw it, if they gave it a shot. So that's my take. I'm just old, but I want those anime cells to come back.
I love how shows look nowadays. I love how computers can help make some really special effects and really stylize things up out of the wazoo. But like Ben said, there is an over sanitation, especially with shows that kind of come in creatively bankrupt and are just cashing in on, oh, this is how all the other shows look, so let's just copy that formula instead of trying something new. And you just couldn't get away with that back in the day. Even if you were on cells trying to copy another popular work, it still kind of forced you to create something unique in your style. And even if you were aping Tezuka or Disney, it still became its own entity just by virtue of you couldn't copy it quite as easily. So I mean, do I think we need cells? No, but man, if like a couple times a year this this like production studio just specialized in making only cell anime, I'd watch it for sure. That'd look so rad.
And you know what else is cool is that like sometimes you love a show so much that you want to own a piece of it, and you're like, I really want to buy something cool from Attack on Titan or whatever, or Demon Slayer, because I love it so fucking much, and I'm very passionate.
Just get like corporatized merchandise and backpacks. Like, no, it's not the same.
Exactly.
Owning the cell is one of the coolest things in all of anime, for sure.
And you can't do it anymore. So all these fans of anime today, the ranking of kings or whatever you like, there's no sell for it. And so you're never going to be able to enjoy the feeling of buying a cell, taking it to a shop and picking out a frame and displaying it in your like living room or in your bedroom or whatever. That doesn't exist anymore. By the way, we watched some of Soul Zone no Frieren, which I have mixed feelings about. But after that, I went back and I was like, you know what else you guys would like is Record of Lodoss War, which is why I keep mentioning Deedlit. And a cell of Deedlit costs insane money. It is literally impossible. They're on eBay. They're like $3,000 a piece. It's like, this is fucking insane. But they're not all like that. I mean, you can go get a cell from Hajime no Ippo for like $10. But it's just a shame they don't make hentai cells. They might. Yeah, hentai is at another level. I've got hentai on the brain. I'm just watching this girl in this hentai describe how she will reward this nerdy dude for helping her pass her exams, and I'll give you a hint. It involves a hand gesture near the face, and that is about all. That's
environmental storytelling.
Yeah, and if you want to hear more about that, the hentai episode later today we'll get you there. But I think it's your turn now.
Yeah. Well, since you brought up Hajime no Ippo, here's my selfish New Year's resolution for the anime industry. Make at least one of these following shows' sequels. Hajime no Ippo, No Game No Life, Land of the Lustrous, Chihayafuru, Noragami, Stars Align, Dorohedoro, Space Brothers, any one of these shows that have just been begging for a sequel for years. Give it to me. I want it now.
Do you really want more No Game No Life?
I think fans do. I think most people do.
It's like sister porn.
I don't know if I need it, but I think the majority of folks were like, I would like some more of that. I'm not saying it will be as good.
You're probably right.
But people have been asking for a while. I mean, we're getting the new Spice and Wolf, but it just doesn't look the same.
It
looks kind of disappointing. But who knows? I could be wrong. But can we just commit for like one season? Just give us all the sequels we've been wanting for years, and we'll just wipe the board clean. Then we don't have to complain about them anymore.
Did you skip one of yours?
I'll get to it later.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to talk about more Hajime no Ippo, which we just need more of. Why?
Yeah.
There's enough. There's tons of manga content.
Way more than you think.
I love our boy. Way more than any.
Idea.
Because there's so much.
Hajime no Ippo is longer than One Piece by a couple hundred chapters. I mean, it's kind of insane, and it's still going.
Yeah.
So those people are workhorses. Yeah, boy, I'd love more Space Brothers. I'd love more 12 Kingdoms. There's like 5 novels that haven't been adapted, but nobody really cares.
I'm sure we each could rattle off a list of 1,000 shows that we would want sequels to that have content to pull from.
Yeah.
I don't know.
A bunch of shows that I would list that nobody cares about.
Give me one of them. Just at least one.
My next... So we've already gone through making anime look more human, making less of it, and paying people more. So my first 3 were all about getting better quality anime and bringing it back to something that looks more human, made by humans, right? And now we're going to make it cheaper for you, because I think we need to consolidate anime into fewer streaming services. It's really expensive to live these days. I mean, everything's expensive. I bitch about it all the time. But even if you were to just get Netflix, High Dive, Crunchyroll, and Disney, which is going to cover most of everything, it is going to cost you $100 a year. Let's see, 45. No, it's going to cost you $1,000 a year. It's $45 a month for those, because Netflix $15, Disney's $15, High Dive is 5 and Crunchyroll's 10. So you spread that
It's
across.
like 600-700 a year.
More than that. Wait, was my math
Oh.
wrong? Oh, yeah, I'm just drinking whiskey. $700 a year, we'll call it.
Yeah,
Six, 700.
give or take.
That is way too much.
Netflix is probably going to up prices $2 there, and then someone else is going to up it. It's probably, it'll be 1,000 eventually.
It's way too much. And if you want people to not pirate shit, make it easier to access. People go, oh my God, you're terrible, you're pirating. It's like, yeah, but like I literally cannot afford all of this. Now the question, and now I would also ask, like, why do you need all that? For people to watch anime, honestly, just get Crunchyroll and move on. I mean, honestly, there's 72 shows a season. 80% of them are on Crunchyroll. And you can't watch all that anyway. It's more than you can handle. But I just think that we should consolidate a little better and make it easier for people to watch all these things. And then you won't have to have people cutting corners and, pirating and things like that. So
What would you pay, though, for one consolidated all anime that comes out?
If it only had
simul-dubbed, it all comes to this one little box, and it works on your game console, your phone. Like, it works.
Yeah.
It's not a high dive. It works. It functions.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, high dive.
What's the max you would pay for something like that? Like $27, $30 a month? That seems absurd.
No way, it's too much. So
yeah,
Crunchyroll's 10. Crunchyroll will get you like something, I don't know, most of the anime, 80%. High dive will have 2 or 3 a season. Netflix will have 2 or 3 a season. Disney has 1 or 2 maybe.
So you'd want it to be like 20 something.
I'm thinking like $15 to $16 to have a service where you have absolutely every single show, but there's nothing on it except anime, because then it would cost more. The rationale is, well, if I pay $600 a year, I have all the anime, but I have all of the like TV shows and stuff too that aren't anime. And that's how you would justify that value proposition. But
yeah.
I'm thinking for like $200 a year, if I can watch every anime and have a service that's got it all, and that would include dubs too, because a lot of this stuff's dubbed anyway, I would pay that. I would pay $200 a year, but that would be to have absolutely have access to everything. And I really think actually the streaming sites might make a little extra money doing that, because if you can make a reasonable offer to people, then they're not going to go pirate shit. And I think piracy is still pretty prevalent. So I don't know. That's my thought, but
I think some people will pirate regardless. They just don't want to spend the money.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get to them. But I think piracy, at the end of the day, is about convenience. It's not having to pay for 4 different sites, and then some of them don't work that well, and then this one doesn't come out on time, and then this player doesn't work, and then you just don't like the UI of another one. It's easier for people to go online, find the show, and just watch it than it is to properly go through the legal channels. And if you can make a product that is better than piracy, people will be like, okay, I'll do that. And that's what needs to be done. But it's difficult in this age of everything being fragmented.
Let me ask you a question. I want you to referee for a second, because whiskey's a strong drink, and I'm going to make a strong statement. I am going to argue that pirate sites are a good thing. And the reason why I'll say that is because I think it keeps streaming services in check on what they can do to people. If Crunchyroll said, well, we have 80% of anime, we're going to charge you $60 a month, people would go to the streaming. Everybody would just go to the pirate sites, because no one's going to pay that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But because the pirate sites exist, Crunchyroll cannot do that to you. They have to provide a reasonable price for their service, because there is an alternative, legal or not, that is a substitute for effectively $0. So I don't know how you feel about that statement, but I'm going to make a claim that, like, even though pirate sites are illegal, they kind of do serve as a check and balance for someone like Sony, who could, at this point, pretty much just fuck you, because they have almost a monopoly. What do you think of that?
I think that's a absolutely true statement for 85% of the anime watching population. Like I said, you have the fringes on the sides who some guy will pay and be legal and do the right thing because he feels morally justified, and that's what he knows, or it's just not technologically savvy enough to try to mess around with pirating. And you have the people that will not pay for anything regardless because they can get it for free, so why not? But the people in the middle, They want what is easiest for them and will pay a small fee to avoid that inconvenience. So if the pendulum swings and Crunchyroll gets too expensive or too unwieldy or whatever streaming software, they will swing the other way and start pirating. And same way where if the Crunchyroll offer seems really good and you can get good value for your money and it works on your mobile devices and you can bring it with you and it takes the hassle out of life, then they'll swing and do that. So there's that balance that you talked about, and I think that's a very fair point.
I'm glad you agreed.
Yeah, it doesn't happen all the time, but we try.
All right, what's your next one, Mason?
I tried to play a bit of a mixed card here with actual like production of stuff, but studios should only be allowed to produce one show per season.
Yes, I love this.
It kind of goes hand in hand with just the overabundance of shows, but the problem isn't that there's 100 shows coming out. The problem is that there's 100 shows coming out, and there's not enough animators to go around, and there's not enough production supervisors and editors to go around, and they're all not even being cannibalized by the industry as a whole, but one studio might be split with 3 different shows, and yeah, some of them have been working for longer than others, and you could say, oh, this show's been in production for a year, this one's newer, we can kind of share resources. Fine, I get that. But it's just making what we do get more diluted and weaker. And if you only say, hey, you can pick one show, you can pick one racehorse to put your money in, you might argue we won't get as many original or fresh shows. They're all going to be isekais because they don't want to lose money. That's too much of a risk. All your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
But even then, you're getting such a better product for it. And they're not going to just grab any isekai off the shelf and be like, oh, it's an isekai. Let's make 3 of them, pump them out. They're going to say, okay, what's actually a good show that we think will return revenue? And yeah, there's going to be some calling that's going to remove some of those fringe shows that could be really amazing. And that's upsetting. But if at the counterpoint is we just get better shows and shows that are more thoughtfully selected, I guess I'm okay with that. I don't know. It's just an idea. It's just a concept here.
I like it.
And no more recap episodes. No more mid-season recap episodes are banned forever. And
Yes.
ideally, if I'm being greedy, and every time a show has done this, it's usually looked better, but a show, if I could have my choice, would be complete before it starts airing. Just because every time you're not working to a time crunch, the work seems to look better, and you just feel better about it, knowing, oh, the show is done. It has completed. It's properly arrived at its destination of being how it wants to be, instead of, well, episode 8, they ran out of time and it just looks like doo-doo butter. And you're like, well, that doesn't make me feel great about the product I'm now consuming. So, I don't know. Just kind of bundled all those together.
So I'm very happy to say that Lady Emery, our pit boss and the betting degenerates, has formally announced the result of a bet, and we all knew from the very beginning how it was going to go. But as I will say for Caroline, MF Ghost has beaten Overtake. That's right. I'm ready, baby. Yeah.
What was the final count?
It was very close, actually. Overtake ended with a 7.63, or not Overtake. MF Ghost had a 7.63, and Overtake had a 7.55. So it's pretty close.
So
it was
0.08?
0.08. So
I'm actually fine with that. I'm pretty happy with how that turned out.
well, and we're not happy with how MF Ghost turned out. Honestly, it's
No?
it's just no. I mean, Pancake and I are both. We've seen pretty much all of Initial D at this point, and
Yeah.
I think we both agreed that it's just not as interesting as Initial D. It's actually not even that close, to be frank with you. I would say, well, you got to wait till season 2 or whatever, but Initial D didn't waste any time. I mean, it was pretty much badass from like the very beginning. So it's just not that good, but it's a shame. Anyway, moving on. We got a couple more here.
Yeah.
This is my last one. Make more of an effort to bring anime to unexplored areas of the market. There are still a lot of people out there, primarily older people that are like, older than 40 probably, that have absolutely no idea about anime at all. I think you have to find a way to get into these markets. If you want to continue to grow anime and make it more mainstream, make it more normal, you're going to have to address the older crowd. And they've tried, like something like Pluto is on Netflix, and it's definitely adult friendly, but there's just not enough of these. It's really easy for people to just not notice Pluto. You got to have more mature stories and art styles. People are not going to watch Helck if they're 50. It's just not going to happen. You got to get them on platforms that adults use. So move them out of Crunchyroll. Get them, put a show or two, in places where adults are looking for other things. And you got to do some marketing. I mean, really, marketing is really the important thing. It's not enough to just take Pluto and drop it on Netflix and have it float in some puddle with like 1,900 other shows. No one's going to notice that. You ideally would do a little marketing in these spaces to try to generate awareness, because there are anime out there that are really interesting for generally all audiences, like something like Vinland Saga. Vinland Saga is going to appeal to most adults if they're just willing to give it a chance for an hour before they give up on it. But Vinland Saga is real easy to never find on Netflix. So, if you want to try to increase anime's popularity further and make it something that is enjoyable by literally every demographic, anime is pretty much now, I'd say, I am an old anime fan. If you're older than me and you're an anime fan, then you were an anime fan.
You're close to death anyway, so why bother marketing to them?
Well, yeah, I'll be dead in like 2 years, but I started watching anime because of Toonami. But what is the thing before Toonami that brought people to anime? And the question is nothing. I don't know what it is. A subculture on the internet. You ran into a VHS tape at Sam Goody or something, which doesn't even exist anymore. But there aren't very many of those people. So I'm closing in on 40. I'm not quite there yet, but there are not many anime fans older than me. But there could be, especially with the internet, if you tried a little harder. So that's my wrap up. In summary, we got to increase animator pay, make fewer anime so you get better quality. Bring back anime cells so we reinstill the human touch to shows. Make them cheaper so more people can access them, and expand the market to an older audience. And I think if you can do that, we'll have better anime and more people watching anime. So that's the end of my little spiel. Mason,
yeah, that last one is tough though, because so many ads nowadays are focused and targeted that you have to reach out and find someone who's not really familiar with anime to then target them to watch anime. Like everything is, oh, your phone heard you talking about cars, so now you're getting car ads kind of thing. Like if someone's not talking about anime, they're not going to get those targeted ads. What are you going to do? Just blast big titty anime chicks on the side of like porn sites and hope they watch One Piece
they already
or something?
do
Like,
that, bro.
I know, my man. But what I'm saying is, like, it's so hard to reach out and grab folks. And so much of what I know about anime is because I'm on an anime podcast and I have to look up anime news. And I go to our Discord, which is awesome. And they tell me stuff. Hey, do you remember this show? Blah, blah, blah. Like, that's where I get my info. But in the outside world, as someone who is in anime, I'm not getting fed new things. If I wasn't actively looking up, oh, what new shows are this season, I wouldn't know, oh, this sequel's coming out. I love that show. Or this looks interesting. Let me check it out. Everything is so targeted these days. It's hard to get out of your bubble. And I agree with you. I think it's tricky. So tell a friend is how you do it. You force them down on the couch. You strap their arms in, and you just show them insert name of controversial anime here until they like it. I think that's how you do it.
Well, you're trying to wrap up.
Yeah. Fittingly, my last resolution is make your shows have a conclusive ending as if more seasons are not guaranteed.
Such a good idea.
There's so many shows that end with, I sure hope we get a season 2, or the viewer will go look up the manga or get more of the novel for, no. Assume that when your show ends, that's where my interest will as well. And if you expect more from the viewer and they don't follow through, it's just a worse experience. So once again, it doesn't have to be conclusive, but it has to be definitive enough that someone can walk away and still enjoy the experience without just being left out to dry. And that's difficult, but that's what your job is to make a good show. And you chose to make your season X number of episodes long, and so do something with it. And maybe I'm a little salty because we just finished watching Helck, but come on, end it better.
It was the same way with MF Ghost. I mean, it basically
Exactly.
has no ending. I mean, they announced season 2 right away, but I mean, it's but yeah, when it's long like Helck and they leave you hanging, that
With
sucks.
no announcement of season 2,
That sucks.
that sucks.
Because then you're like, oh, am I ever gonna get to finish this, or did I just waste 8 hours of my life? And half the
And
time,
yeah, you could argue like, oh, Berserk didn't end on a great note and it made you read a manga and it's a great manga and it's worth it. Sure, but at least it ended in a way that I would say feels very Berserkian. It feels in a way that felt like depressive and despair and in line with the show's, aesthetic. So I don't know. I'm just salty about that. So
listen, can I just give Berserk a pass? It's so
good.
good that I think it gets a pass. I mean, it's comparing Helck to Berserk is like comparing like McDonald's hamburger meat to like Kobe beef. It's just not gonna. Yeah, I have enjoyed some chicken nuggets here and
Some
there.
good
Though.
resolutions. So with that, we will offer any resolution that you have in the comments. We look forward to reading them, and we will get into our news break. But first, here's an in-show trivia question. If you happen to watch Helck, in that anime, what is the name of the creature that guides the boat from the island back to the continent? It's weird, it's funky, it's got those little antler things. If you can remember, props to you. And we'll leave you with that. So, see you in a bit.
Hey, Anime Addicts, this is Mitsugi, and it's time for the anime news break. Starting off with Comic-Cat news, as happens every year at Tokyo Big Sight in Odaiba, Tokyo. Comic Market, or Comic-Cat, probably the largest anime convention in the world, recently was held. It drew about 270,000 attendees this past Saturday and Sunday, which is way down from where it was before the pandemic. Before the pandemic, Comic-Cat 97 attracted 750,000 attendees across the 4 days, which was an all-time record, which was close to 200,000 people per day across that 4-day weekend, which is just a dramatic drop in attendance. I'm not sure why exactly. Probably still COVID. I don't know who cares at this point, but the attendance for Comic-Cat way down in Tokyo, Odaiba. Next up, Jujutsu Kaisen is getting an anime sequel during that 23rd and final episode of the second season of Jujutsu Kaisen. It was announced that MAPPA is going to come back and handle the next season, adapting the Shimetsu Kaiyu, or Culling Game arc of the manga. So this manga, of course, has a lot of copies in circulation, 80 million copies in print. So if you're a big fan of Jujutsu Kaisen, you're going to get more content coming out here pretty soon. Next up, another new anime announcement coming out. The light novel Nihon e Yokoso Elf-san, or Welcome to Japan, Mrs. Elf, is going to be getting an anime adaptation. Makishima began writing this comedy novel in the Shosetsuka ni Naru website, and it's been on there since August of 2018. There are 9 volumes in print. The synopsis is about Kitase, whose only hobby is sleeping, and he would enter a wondrous world within his dreams, which is, he's so good at it because it's his hobby. Then one day he goes on an adventure with an elf girl he became friends with in his dream world, but it's put to an abrupt halt when they both get scorched by a dragon, blah, blah, blah. He wakes up from his dream and notices that the elf girl is in his bedroom, I guess. So typical type of stuff, but a cute character model. So look out for Welcome to Japan, Mrs. Elf coming out at some point. Next up, 2 manga are coming to an end here. Mayu Minase's Itonami Itonamezu is ending with its 10th volume. So this pretty popular series follows the love story of a young man, and as he has a fateful encounter with a woman at a bento store. So a very popular property that maybe you'll be getting an anime about here shortly. I'm not sure if it's been announced or not, but also the Itaten Deities No Only Peace is also ending with its 9th volume. So this was announced just recently, and the final volume will go on sale next year in the fall or winter. So if you're a fan of either of those two mangas, enjoy it because they are wrapping up. This was Mitsuki, and this was your anime news break. And now, as always, time to get back to the podcast. So you're at the gym, feeling great and looking great too, I might add. That is until your favorite podcast ends. Now, without your headphones, you're suddenly lost in the wilds of Meatland. Don't get lost in the wilds of Meatland. Get the AAA Podcast extra content. We'll help you gain some fun times with our hobby addicts, after parties, and hentai episodes. Nothing gets your blood pumping quite like hentai, and nothing helps the podcast quite like your support. So head over to aaapodcast.com/join or Patreon to support the show. Again, that's aaapodcast.com/join or Patreon. Bro, sounds like you need a spot from the AAA podcast.
And now, great moments in Anime Addicts Anonymous history.
Do I look like the CEO of Anime Hell? Okay, I am just a distributor. I merely provide Anime Hell with Moe girls in the Church of Mitsugi. I can't be expected to do everything, okay?
Oh, wow.
Times are tough. Hiring is difficult. We don't have a proper HR department. We don't have enough money to pay a reasonable salary. Everybody wants to work remote these days. What am I supposed to do, okay? You're just going to sit at home and play video games if you work remote. I can't have that happening. But then if I ask you to come into the office, you don't want to work. You don't want to apply for the job.
There's so many stairs to the pit of hell. Like, you have to go all the way down. You don't even have an elevator.
We have cube space, okay? It's there. But, that being said, I don't have enough manpower to actually determine where the Moe girls go in the pit of hell. I only have enough manpower to provide Dear Anime Satan with the labor that he requires. So whatever he does with it, that's his business.
So you just kick them in. You don't really care what happens to them after
That's
that.
correct. That's not, see, there's a contractual agreement here. The red lines for the contract were very highly contested. He wanted me to determine where they go. I said, look, I don't have the manpower for that. I'm going to give you the anime girls, but you have to figure it out on your own. Listen, it's hell has a lot more resources than just one little church, okay? For God's sake, what do I look like? Welcome back to the podcast. We might have been taking a break, but in this hentai that I've got on my computer screen, they never took a break. They're just ravenous. In fairness, the hentai girl is pretty cute. We did have a trivia question for you. In the anime Helck, which is what a fucking terrible name. What is the name of the creature that guides the boat from the island back to the continent? And the anime is Core Stag.
That was a tough one.
Not really. I knew it.
Because you just watched it. But you're a genius. You're a madman.
I think somewhere between a stag and a coral reef, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Is where that came from, so. All right, well, welcome back to the podcast, guys. We're gonna do some mailbags for you here, and then we're gonna jump into our review of Helck because that's the anime you wanted us to review. But first, we got to hear from the listeners.
It's time for an almighty anime mailbag. Anime.
Mailbag. If you want to write a mailbag, you can do it at aaapodcast.com/join/mailbag. Mason, would you like to read this first one?
Yes, very fitting for Mitz's mindset at the moment. Mm-hmm. This comes to us from Hentai Inside.
Yeah.
They write, "Hello, AAA podcast. I just wanted to say this podcast is amazing and it makes my existence better each week. Mm-hmm. You're welcome. I just subscribed to the podcast and I fell in love with the hentai episodes. My question is, what is your all all-time favorite and all-time worst hentai you have ever watched.
Oh.
All hail the AAA
Wow.
podcast. I forgot about the second part of this question. I only put down my first ones. I have not seen as much as Mitz, so I kept my scope of qualifying hentai shows to shows that we've talked about on the podcast. And I think my two favorite ones are the Peter Grill series, which was not like great if you just want the hentai, but just
Ogre
as an
Girls.
experience, it was really funny. Just watching that with you guys was a blast, and it had more comedy than a lot of comedy anime. So Peter Grill was a fun time. And I think one that I gave a good score to was fittingly called Eroge Can Solve Everything. I remember that one being pretty decent as far as hentai go. So, and I won't speak the names of the worst because there's just so many. You've seen the hentai episodes. You know how bad they can be. So just most hentai are just the worst. How about you, Mitz?
Yeah, so I'm trying to find this one particular hentai that I reviewed recently.
Is it that T-Rex one?
So T-Rex is my favorite studio. They just make better stuff. Their animation is better.
You would say that they're built different.
Yeah, so this is hentai talk, so, earmuffs for the kids. But, T-Rex tends to have better animation. And in hentai, everything is censored for the most part, except the breasts. So when you got to really nail the breasts correctly, or you're left with pretty much nothing. So, and I don't think anybody does that better than T-Rex does. So there is a hentai that came out not long ago. This is a 2023 hentai called Bon Yu Chan wa Dashi Tai, and in Japanese, the translation of that is something like it's hilarious. Miss Breast Milk is Miss Breast Milk wants to release or she wants to shoot milk out of her breast. That's what basically it's a T-Rex hentai, and all 4 episodes of it are very excellent for what it is. So, but if you want the best of the best, just look up that studio and just pick anything you want. They're pretty much all great. The worst one, probably the most disappointing hentai I saw recently was one. I tried to look it up real quick here, but I couldn't find it. Everybody knows Mitz likes succubuses, and I like cat girls especially. But so there was one called the Succubus Kingdom or something. We talked about this, and the cover art was phenomenal. It looked so convincing, like, oh, this is going to be amazing. It's going to look super good. It's all about succubuses, and Mitz is going to love this. And then when I got into there, it was like a flash animation. It was just horrendous. That was probably the most disappointing thing I've ever seen recently from hentai in my memory. So,
wasn't quite a master stroke.
No, not at all. No, it was
disappointing.
Yeah, it was a chafing stroke with devoid of lubricant, and yeah, you don't want that. Wow, hentai mailbag, look out! The next mailbag is from Catherine. Hi, lovely hosts. I was listening to episode episode 278. Jesus, like 10 years ago, and enjoyed Cooking with Chiaki segment. What was the inspiration for the cooking segments? Would you consider bringing it back? What recipes would you cook? If so, thanks for the fun episodes. Oh, wow. I mean, literally, that was probably 2014 when we did that. And the answer is, when I had a studio in my residence that was a full studio, which we had for a long time, we were able to extend the microphones and the cameras to the kitchen, because the kitchen was right next to where we were normally podcasted anyway. It was only about 6 feet away, pretty easy to do, and so we thought, why not? And plus, I don't know, Chiaki wanted to do it, so we just had the means to do it easily back then. And then, when I moved into my other place, Kazuo did a cooking with Kazuo where he can't cook. And so he was like,
Legendary.
yeah. And we had to extend the microphones a little further for that. I had to get an extender. I had to extend them like 40 feet, and I had to do the same with the cameras. It still worked. It could be done now, honestly. But I don't know. I just haven't thought about it in a while. There's really no reason why. I mean, shit, the microphone cables I have now are long as hell. I mean, you got to see how many times I have this cable wrapped around this mic boom. I mean, it's probably a 50-foot cable that's only having to go about 3 feet. So it's
Yeah.
I could probably feed that downstairs, and we could in theory have Pancake cook some Japanese food, but it's not off the table. It's not like it would never happen again, but for now
It would probably just be like a bonus YouTube video or something.
I just haven't thought about it really. So, but good mailbags. Thanks for writing in again. AAApodcast.com/mailbag. It'll take you straight there, and you can there's a whole bunch of different types of submissions you can do that drive content on the show, so pick whatever one you want and, have at it. All right, time for the review of Helck. This was a listener choice anime that I believe Caroline failed on episode 689. And yes, unfortunately, it's on High Dive. I watched it on a pirate site. I'm not gonna lie. I've signed up for like 14 free trials on High Dive, and I'm out of credit cards. And for some reason, the pirate site has a better media player than High Dive does, and whatever, etc., etc. But it's not dubbed. Like, what are you fucking doing? You're killing me. High Dive, you're down the fucking hallway from Sentai Filmworks. You're supposed to exist to dub shit. So, I don't know why they don't. Anyway, the Demon King was defeated by the hands of one of the heroes, and a competition was held for the title of the new Demon King. Vermilio, who is in charge of the tournament, is furious at the participation of the human hero Helck, who is supposed to be her enemy. After receiving news of the fall of the castle of Urim before the final event, Vermilio sets out to retake Urim Castle with Helck and other finalists. Directed by Tatsuo Sato of Studio Satellite. It's based on a manga. Satellite, man, I just don't know. What is Satellite?
Not much.
What are their
much.
What is their best rated anime? Do you have any ideas?
Their highest rated one?
Because they there's quite a few.
Most popular one.
I'm gonna say highest rated just to make it easy, but I mean they have quite. I'll give you a hint. They have one anime above an 8 out of 57.
I mean, on AniList, it's Symphogear 15 or whatever.
Yep, same thing on Mao.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Symphogear is not terrible.
The studio, if someone's coming into this review, knows nothing about Helck, and says, like, what satellite show, like, does it kind of, like, will be like, oh, they did that show. They did Log Horizon, which, not saying that this is an isekai, but that was one of their big popular shows that kind of has that plain look to it that was a pretty good time, I think. So
they also did Fairy Tail. So
yeah, their shows don't look great.
No.
Ever.
No. Well, Fairy Tail's got some cute girls in it.
That's not what I said.
I like Lucy. I like Lucy pretty well. She's cute.
No, they did Somali and the Forest Spirit. That was fine. That was... Anyway, what were your expectations?
See, Somali failed. It had no waifus. Okay? You gotta have waifus.
I mean, that's true. That's true. There's
Lucy from Fairy Tail is definitely a waifu. So, yeah.
There you go. Facts.
Mason, what were your expectations?
I kind of talked about this with Caroline on our Hobby Addicts, I think, last week. But, yeah, she had said felt kind of like a Saturday morning cartoon. That's what I expected, and that's kind of what I got. So, there you go.
For me, I didn't really know anything about this. I thought it was about like an arena. I thought it was almost like, I think I saw Helck's character design, and I thought to myself, it's gonna be like Roman Empire, like Colosseum battling or something. But Helck just looks like a blue-haired Conan the Barbarian. I mean, let's not lie about that. I mean, he just does. So, And if you haven't seen Conan the Barbarian, I definitely encourage you to go watch it. I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, you just got to look at Arnold and say, like, this man is a god. I mean, he is just so fucking jacked. It's hard to resist. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna go with that. It's just Conan the Barbarian with blue hair, and I don't know. I expected a lot of action in this show, but I didn't know much about it because I'm not gonna go read about it just because it got passed. So, Mason, did you enjoy Helck? Would you recommend this to anybody?
I've seen quite a few shows. You know that, Mitz.
Yeah.
And to me, Helck isn't cutting it. You can take it from me. Literally, take it away from me. I don't want any part of it. If this was 12 episodes, it would be boring. At 24 episodes, at 2 cores, it's just tedious and ineffectual. So, yeah, it's really hard to say. So this is easily one of the most visually uninteresting shows I've seen in a while. It's not egregiously awful in, being hideous to look at, but it just feels very cheap, and the directing is very drab, with repeating dialogue, repeating jokes, repeating animation, and just a lot of predictable events. And on top of it, the story is kind of bland, kind of flavorless. It doesn't really give me new ideas or scenes. It just feels like store brand Wonder Bread. Like, it's fine. It fits the mold. Some people just want, that comfy show where everything's going to be okay. It's safe. It's relaxing. It's not an isekai. It's a pure fantasy. So there is some props to it. There are some neat comedic moments, but it just, as a critic, it brings nothing new to the table. And I'm just looking at this piece of bread that isn't even bland Wonder Bread. It's just so safe and flavorless that I just was watching episode after episode. I'm like, I'm just not getting any nutrients out of it. It just felt so devoid of anything, good or bad, that I just kind of glazed over and didn't get much out of it. So I would not recommend it. I'm also not a huge fan of that Saturday morning cartoon vibe. So if you want something comfy and safe and turn your brain off and just sit with it, maybe it's for you, but I can't recommend it in good conscience.
For me, I don't think I'd recommend this either. It's mostly boring. The characters are kind of a nothing burger, to be honest. I mean, I think the show's actually better when Helck isn't in it, which is kind of weird. I really think that the best part of the show was essentially the demons fighting the humans when Helck wasn't around, and that's a big problem. But the biggest failure of this anime is that I think the narrative just can't stay on track. It just transitions into too many different things. It starts off as like tournaments. They're having like battles. It very quickly gets ushered off into that mission that was in the synopsis to go retake Urim Castle, where the very like tsundere girl like Vermilio, recruits Helck to help her take back the castle. So they go and they do that. There was some military strategy in episode 7 that I really enjoyed, where they were sitting around and they were talking about, like, they showed the map and they said, well, the invasion from the north, that's S tier threat, and then on the east and the east and the south, it's a C tier. Like, these guys aren't much of an issue. And then they're like on the east, there's the humans, and that's a C tier. But now that we have all this information, we realize that it could actually be like the biggest threat in the continent. So when they're trying to like strategize, and then they go through like the 5 major threats impacting the kingdom, this is all like really interesting to me. Like, I was super engaged on that episode because they were literally laying out all the problems. They had maps. I love maps, and they were trying to strategize and come up with the best course of action to get their goals accomplished. And I was like, this is really interesting.
That was it.
But then they just dump it, and boom. Now we're like, there was a few episodes where they're like lost at sea. Then there was some filler. There was like 5 episodes of backstory. And it just can't stay on track. And that's a huge problem to me. The anime just doesn't know where it's going or what it's doing. And And most of the sections of the show that I didn't like all involved Helck. Like the backstory was decent, but it was a little long. The filler crap at the beach and the island, that was all just Helck. You know, it's just, I don't know. I really wanted them to just spend time with, I can't even remember all their names. The characters I wanted to see more of were Azudora and Hura. The girl, the sword fighting girl with the blonde hair, and the blue-haired guy that was like one of the 4 kings or whatever.
The elites.
Yeah, they were they were fine, and when they were on screen fighting the humans, I was engaged. But everything else in the show, I was just super bored, and that's a huge issue. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't recommend this. There's just a ton of these fantasy shows that are way better than this. It's really hard to recommend, and Helck, I really think, just gets lost in the mix. It's a show that nobody will think about after about another week, and then literally no one's going to care. So, anything else, Mason, before we go to spoilers?
Yeah, when you mentioned like no one else will care, I get that every show doesn't need to be this mental gymnastics and this epic piece and this, life-changing piece of work and this super, like, things can be simple and plain, and that's fine. But I would bet if you ask someone who genuinely enjoyed this show, which I think there are people out there, and I think if you like Helck, you are just a good, kind person who just likes seeing good, kind characters. But I bet if you would ask someone who did like the show, if they would ever rewatch it, you would be met with a very honest no. And not saying every show needs to be rewatchable to be considered great or good, but it doesn't provide much. And even enjoying it, you'd look back and be like, well, it just didn't give me anything. And it just, I think it'll fade away, as you said. So I don't know. We can get into why we think it was so weak, despite some all right components to it.
Spoilers are coming. Oh my god.
Yeah, geez, I don't know.
So bad. It's so bad.
Yeah, I mean, the animation was not great. I
didn't like the designs of the humans or the monsters. The look of the show is awful. The inconsistent shadowing, broken perspectives, missing mouth flaps. They just forgot to move characters' mouths sometimes. Blurry line work. When a character got closer to the screen, you could tell they were just moving an already drawn image closer, so it started to blur. The effects were super lazy. There were times where they didn't even show someone making a frowny face to a happy face. They just did a dissolve transition, so they only had to draw 2 frames. It was just so blah with really substandard directing and shot selection. It was just the most basic, okay, frame the character's head in the frame, and that's it. And just everything was on such a horizontal, and every time they tried to move it a little bit, they just butchered all the angles. It looked bad, and not in a, like I said earlier, not in a kid drew it bad, but just in a way that was drawn without any sort of artistic style or intent. It just looked plain. I can't, that's really how this show felt for me, was just lack of content.
To me, it was just...
Did any fight scene look good?
No, I mean, not really. I mean, Helck
stylish?
is basically One Punch Man. He just runs up and punches, and everyone dies. And, geez, I'm trying to think. I mean, like, there was nothing really dynamically animated that would make a fight scene, like, especially engaging in this. I mean, I wasn't entirely bored. Like, you know, I kind of expect anime to be generally under-animated for the most part, especially when it's action stuff. So, you know, you got some scenes where, like, guys are getting their wings cut off and, you know, and...
But those are usually just a slash sound effect, a flash of light, and then the wing is removed, and the character is past it with their sword, like, in the completed position. There's not actual animation.
Watching the tree, like, roots come out of the ground and grab people and all that, you know.
Fine.
I mean, at times it was fine. You know, I just wanted more of that and less of I'm lost at sea, which was probably a quarter of the season. So, man, if they had just literally when episode 7 hit and Helck and Vermilio got sucked off into the vortex thing, and they were they had that meeting which I know you know what I'm talking about. And if
Yeah.
they had just pursued that a little more consistently, I think I would have been a lot more engaged. But from everything I saw, they never really go back to that, and it was really a bummer because the
Well, a lot
show,
of the world building in the show try to build something, but they don't build anything on top of it. They just lay a foundation. So, like you say, they talk about all the geographical rankings and individual power levels. Like Helck's level 99. This person's level 43.
yeah.
The humans are evolving. They're becoming level 30. But they don't do anything with it. They meet that core stag, that beast. And she says, "Watch out, the horns are poisonous." Okay, cool. Nothing ever comes of it. Just they go on different adventures and they go to these stores and they say, they got boiled potatoes that cost $15. Why do I care how much it costs if you're not going to do anything with it? They just added all these world building elements that would be interesting if it became cohesive, but they just drop everything and you're just left with a baggage of just misshapen parts that don't go together. So it's very untactile world building, which makes the world feel even worse. Sorry, I interrupted. What were you saying?
no, it's fine. I mean, I think the show just didn't have a good narrative. I mean, it didn't have enough of a consistent flow to really keep me engaged for the most part. It was very there were complimentary things about every individual section in the anime, but it's very hard to stay engaged when it's jumping around so much. Like I described before, spoilers. It was tournament, then it was let's do this mission, then we're lost at sea, then we had some random weird filler, then it was backstory, then we jumped in. It just changes gears too much, and I don't think it really serves the viewer very well for doing so. Somebody like me is going to be like, "Ooh, I'm really interested in this one little section because it really hit the right note." But then you blink and it's gone, and you're back into something else, and it's just the show just didn't know what it wanted to be. And I guess it's a long series because, as you said, it ended and it never had an ending, so it's clearly got more coming if it does get a second season. But
Yeah, I think we're only about halfway through the manga, which is complete. It's actually been complete for years, which is kind of interesting that we're now just getting an adaptation. But yeah, we would need at least another 24 episodes to get to the end. And that just sounds boring.
It's just too much. Boring is a decent way to put it. And I wouldn't be lying if I told you I did fast forward through some of those like beach episodes. I mean, I just knew that whenever Helck's on the screen, it's an excuse to pump the Saturday morning cartoon tone into the anime, and it really just bores me. It's and that's not to say that there's nothing good about this anime, because Helck is kind of like he's like a good boy, and he's
there's good moments sprinkled throughout. I thought I was gonna really dislike Pee-wee, that little green puffball.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, here comes the stupidly designed little creature comic relief. And it actually surprised me. It had some solid moments. Like when Helck, Vermilio, and Pee-wee get captured by the monsters that aren't very good at their jobs. And they just didn't bring enough handcuffs. And Pee-wee's like kind of upset that they don't have handcuffs for him. He's like, oh. So he like walks around pretending to have handcuffs on. That was funny. They get into this big battle and they win and they go to rest. And Pee-wee's like, I worked hard today. Or Helck tells Pee-wee he worked hard today. And Pee-wee's like, yeah, I ran around needlessly. It was stupid. That was funny. Like, Pee-wee actually was pretty endearing. And there's moments of that sprinkled throughout the show that I'm like, okay, that was nice. But then we get an episode of Asa just spying poorly. We get an episode of hand-wavy fight scenes that really go nowhere. Like, this could have been cut down so much. You take that 4-episode whatever flashback, squeeze that down, and you don't lose much for it. This show had no stakes, no cleverness, no emotional resonance or lesson. It just was a mind-numbing adventure that didn't know what it wanted to be, so it jumped around and over-explained every plot point.
Yeah.
And there were nice moments, but the trust that Vermilio gained towards Helck was nice, but it was predictable and shallow. It wasn't nearly as enduring as the trust between, Helck and his teammates in his mercenary band, or oh, do I trust the demons or my father figure foster person and Raphael? Like, it raised some ideas, but it did nothing with them.
Yeah, I mean, the backstory section was very verbose. I think it probably could have been 13 episodes, but they would have to rearrange the way things were done. I mean, the way that they did it, I don't see how they could cut it down adequately. They would just have to cut entire sections out. Like,
I mean, they didn't reach anywhere in episode 24. It ends with not killing the bad guy, not killing the king. They just decided to work together, which we knew was what was going to happen from episode 2. Like, and they set up all these rules of, I have a power to control your mind. And then they just break the rules by saying, oh, I guess I can overcome your mind control power. Oh, I can fight it off with my just veracity and morality. It's just everything that's set up was just laid by the wayside. And what lesson did I learn watching Helck? What did I get out of it besides Pee-wee is a funny green blob?
I'd like to watch Helck and Vermilio just go at each other. Like, they should just turn that into a hentai, and she can just like lick his biceps, and he can just push her up against a tree, and I don't know, man. I mean, yeah, the backstory didn't need to be 5 episodes or whatever it was. I mean, it was not that complicated to begin with, and they didn't need to be stranded at sea for 2 episodes. They definitely could have consolidated. They could have just eliminated that. I didn't understand the point of that. Like, what was the point of putting them in a vortex and sending them off to like some island just to have them gradually walk back? Just to waste time.
So you got 4 episodes of Vermilio being like, oh, I just don't know if I can trust Helck because he's not a demon, but he wants to be on the side of the demons, and that makes me confused. And then they have these big scenes where the village chief wants to see you, and he's all menacing, and he's like, JK, we're going to throw a party.
It was just,
and maybe that's just supposed to be funny, but it just came off as, okay, but why? And this works if the characters are endearing and the writing is charming, but the dialogue is pudding sharp. You get lines of, no way a clown like you could become the demon lord. Did you say a clown? You're the only clown I see around. It's like, this was written for a 7-year-old, and it was very ineffectual.
Rather than having Helck and everybody else fall through the floor of that one castle and get sucked into the vortex, they just as easily could have concluded that little battle and had them all gather around Helck while he tells his information about the human soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
And then just go on your merry way. Like, that probably saves us 4 or 5 episodes right there. And if you trim the backstory by about 50%, you're probably saving 6 or 7 episodes. I mean, you're getting close to the single core just from that. I don't know. I really think this anime was just way too long. It doesn't have the narrative chops to last for as many episodes as it did. And it's tough, man. When it's 24 episodes long and you got to watch it in a week, and it's not dubbed, and you got to devote your full attention to it, it's really tough to get it done in a whole week, especially if it's not particularly engaging.
Yeah.
And this anime just never really got a lot of good traction. Helck, to me, is just a bad character. He's very simple and basically pollutes the scenes that he's in with comic relief. He's so powerful that they tended to turn him into just like a source of humor. Like in the second episode or whatever, when they had that horse race, and they're like, fuck it. He picks the horse up and starts running, and starts outrunning the horses on foot. Like, that's some fucking Scooby-Doo, like, goofy shit. And, I mean, that's fine. I'm sure this anime had an audience. It got picked for listener choice. I mean, I'm still not entirely sure why, except for the fact that maybe the season sucked. But,
yeah,
it just, I did like Vermilio. I thought she was one of the better characters, even though she's kind of cliche. But, I mean, I still enjoyed her.
The voice acting was good, and Vermilio was one of the better characters. But for the most part, the villains or the nobility were all very one note. The main characters were all very one note, and really Helck, yes, he's a nice person who can cook, but he also never worked or struggled for his power. He just had it. He just became invincible, and so he doesn't even have much of a struggle to do that. It's all in this internal emotional baggage, which if you don't land that, you don't land his character, and him struggling with dealing with his friends all turning to humans should have not felt as shallow as it did. So I just never connected with him because it felt so forced and so just unsupported by the framework of what should have been 8 episodes of building up that emotional resonance, which never happened.
I'm not sure what else to say, really. I really just wanted more of the military strategy stuff, but I think that was just too much, too mature for the audience that this is meant for. I think clearly they knew that it needed to be a simpler story, and getting into like military strategy and having meetings to discuss like what to do next is just not interesting to younger audiences, even though it interested me a lot.
And the show would have dropped the logic in there. There were so many times where characters just happened to figure out things with logic that if you follow sentence by sentence is not logical at all. They just wanted you to understand what was happening. So they just made a BS reason for why everyone knew what was going on. And they just, I disliked everyone in the show besides Pee-wee.
Everybody?
Pretty much. There was not very many redeeming characters that I enjoyed.
I mean, you're
they
not
were
wrong.
all just so simple.
Helck's like a Mary Sue. Vermilio's a tsundere. The blonde-haired girl is probably a tsundere too, but she just was basically a fighter. The blue-haired guy, Azudra, he was... I don't know. He was just like a pretty boy. He was
more engaging because he was all over the place, but it still didn't always make sense.
He was one of the better characters, but I mean, still didn't like blow my face off or anything. The cat girl character. That's what I was after. Yeah.
Asta?
The cat girl. What the hell was her name? I'm look it up here.
The one who communicates with her twin by drinking coffee?
Yeah.
And then they decide to, when Vermilio is
Isuda.
recalling the letter she received from Azudora, she sees his image in the coffee, which would be fine as a way of showing her recollection, but don't show her thinking about something in the same way other characters have a superpower of that. Like, that's just bad directing. That is just objectively a poor way to convey an idea. So, I don't know. This is just a sloppy show.
Her name was Isuta. But I didn't remember that at all, so.
Yeah, that's the sister of Asta, who was spying like an absolute goober, going around shouting out, "I wonder why no one can find me," right before getting found.
Yeah, exactly.
There's not much to this.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot else to say. I mean, really, it's not like it's terrible, but it also isn't very interesting, and it's a tough watch at 2 cores. I mean, it's very lengthy and shit, and this anime is almost as long as an entire season of Game of Thrones. And it has
this show probably would have gone better if we watched it weekly. This was like a comfy Saturday morning cartoon show, and we're like, oh, it's our daily or weekly dose of Helck. It's fun, it's cute. Haha, Pee-wee said something funny. Okay, and then you just forget about it.
I definitely think we dropped the ball by jumping on this show at the end. I think it was probably reviewable at the halfway mark, because it spanned 2 seasons. So I think that it was probably reviewable after that first core. Probably would have been a little better because this was a tough one to binge, honestly. And
yeah, but then people would have said, "Oh, but you didn't get to the fighting part, and you didn't get to this part, and you didn't get to the flashback." And it's like, well, I did, and I didn't change my mind.
I'm too old to care. So here's my balls. I don't know. I don't know. So, and I don't have anything else to say. We're running out of shows from summer, though. We're down to only 3 anime. So
yeah. I proposed the schedule of next reviews, so we'll have to go through that to see.
It's really just 2, because I don't know if Zom 100 is ever going to end. So
no, it's done. That should be next week.
Oh, it ended? Okay.
Yep, they finished it up. So we'll actually talk about that next week.
All right. Well,
so we don't have to go 2 back-to-back 2 core shows.
Well, you want to give a score for Helck?
Yeah. At the end of this, I was left with so few answers to the few plot points that were relevant, and there were so many questions left that I just don't care about. As the show practically says in one of its final episodes, caring about it is just a waste of time. 24 episodes was just too long.
Yeah.
And it had all that time and it didn't leave a mark, which is, one could argue, even worse than being objectionably bad, which this show wasn't. It was competent enough to just coast by, and it just left me with a big wad of nothing. And I don't know. It's hard being harsh on this because people genuinely like the show. I've heard great things about the manga, and I just don't know if it was the comedy, the animation, or what, but it did not click. So I'm going to have to give Helck 1.5 Demon Elite Lords out of 5.
Ouch.
I'm sorry.
Ouch.
Maybe 2024 I'll be more positive. Maybe. No. What do you got, Mitz?
To me, it was just it just struggled with the narrative. Like I said 100 times already, I don't have to really rehash it. I just think it needed to stay on track a little better. I don't think I disliked it quite that much. I did have a long airplane ride to get about close to a third of it watched, which did help. But there's really just no reason to really get too excited about Helck. It's not really that good. I wouldn't recommend it really to anybody. It's just it's just a fantasy anime with action scenes. So I'm gonna give it a 2.5. The fuck do I even give it? 2.5. Reincarnated human weird awakened people out of 5. I didn't think it was especially good. So
That's pretty good. I think a 2 is very fitting for this show.
all right, yeah. So that's pretty solid. I'm not sure what Caroline would have given it if she were here, but probably not much better. Honestly, so. But next week we're gonna do Zom 100. Is that right?
That's right.
For some reason, I thought it was Jujutsu Kaisen. Maybe I'm just.
Well,
imagining
I
things.
figured Jujutsu Kaisen is another 24 episodes. So doing that after doing 24 for Helck
You're right.
seemed like a lot. So Zom 100 next week. After that, we will do Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2. And then we'll do the 3 weeks of Winter Impressions.
Yeah.
And then we'll do Rurouni Kenshin, which is the other 2 core. But then you can watch it over the course of doing the Winter Impressions. And then we'll be all done with the 2 core shows until this fall ends. But we'll get to that when we get to that.
Man, I still got to put our shows on our Google document here, so for winter. Anyway, guys, that's our show for today. Thanks for listening. I think there's going to be some episodes coming up here shortly where we're talking about like the recap of 2023. We're going to do that. We have our Oscars episode coming up soon, which I got to start.
Yeah.
You know how it is, but we got some good stuff coming up for you in the future here. So don't fret. We're here for you, and I'm not taking off any weeks here for a hot minute. All the traveling and stuff, I think for the most part's done. So you won't have to worry about Caroline trying to kill me off again anytime soon. I want to thank Kazuo for coming on again last week. It was nice to hear him. Sorry I missed him, but that's life. So, but again, if you want to support the podcast, AAApodcast.com/join or Patreon. That's where you can give us your subscription. You'll get our hentai episodes, which we're going to talk about right now. I'm going to be reviewing a hentai called Hatsukoi Jikon or the First Love Time. So that should be good. It's a T-Rex hentai. Again, you can find us at AAApodcast.com and of course the Discord, AAAdiscord.com. So go check that out. We will see you next week on the podcast. So look forward to that. We'll see you. I hope you have a wonderful week. Enjoy your first week of the year. Until then, stay anime addicts. And as Steve Bloom would say, stay gold. Bye, guys.
Bye.